But let's step back for a moment. This is what it's called the cringe factor. That term was actually, I got that from the women who have owned a house together in Port Perry, because they go around promoting this idea as well. And, that's versus the reality check, the cringe factor. Some of us immediately recoil at thought of living with other people. Are you giving up your independence, different habits of living, getting on one another's nerves? What about sharing a kitchen? Or will my visitors feel comfortable? Well, in terms of independence, in a way, you perhaps have more independence because you can come and go a little more freely if you know there's someone else in the house. Different habits of living, well, that's where you really have to be careful how you choose your housemates. And this is something that I go over in the workshops that I do. It's finding people who are compatible enough that you're comfortable living together. And the same with getting on one another's nerves. You have to be respectful of each other, and you have to have very similar, again, lifestyle similarities. Do you like it quiet at home? Do you like to party? Do you need the radio on all the time? Do you like it quiet? All these things. You talk about that kind of thing before you make a decision to move in together. You don't do this just on the spur of the moment, and you don't do it when you're in a desperate situation. It really takes, it could take some time, 2 or 3 months, to find someone that you're comfortable living with. But you be intentional about it, and you'll find it's certainly possible to find people. I mean, young people sometimes get married today. Perhaps they should be a little more intentional about looking into their lifestyles, how they like to live and habits and so forth. They find out later on that someone never puts the cap on the toothpaste or whatever it is. Anyway, when you're intentional about it, you can make these decisions ahead of time and have a much better chance of having something be successful. Sharing a kitchen. People ask me when they find out I'm sharing a home, what do you do with a kitchen? I say, well, we cook in it. In our case, just about every home I've lived in, we have shared the kitchen, we've shared meals, we just whoever was out would do the grocery shopping, and we kept track of who spent what. At the end of the month, we added it up and divided by 3 or 4, depending how many people were involved, and we settled up between each other. Some people would rather have their own food and keep that separate, and each one has a corner of the fridge, whatever. But I find sharing meals, it's been called the community glue. When you break bread together, that really is a very bonding experience. So if you can do that, I highly recommend it. And will your visitors feel comfortable? Well, I've had my family visit here, and at first they're a little bit awkward, but I just, look, this is my home. This is like my family. Feel at home. Eventually people get the idea and they realize they can relax and just enjoy your new extended family. And the reality check. How many people do you know over the age of 85 who are successfully living alone? Are they safe? They may have their kids giving them ride places or bringing them meals. They may have meals on wheels, which certainly is another way to do this. And are they safe? I mean, I know of a case where a daughter was calling her mother every day at 5 o'clock. She'd call her mom. And one day, right after they hung up the phone, her mother had a stroke and didn't find out until a day later when her daughter couldn't reach her on the phone and followed up. But 24 hours is a very critical period at that time. And if you're sharing a home with someone, they will know right away something's wrong. They'll call 911 and you'll be taken care of. So how many are relying on families and friends to look after them? I mean, our kids worry about us. They do. I mean, if you're a senior that has kids that say, don't worry about me, I'm fine, but they're going to worry. And this is it's a load off their mind too, to know you have someone with you. Someone told me recently that they were taking turns with their sister, I think spending a month living with their dad. I guess their mom had passed away, and their dad had a girlfriend who was perhaps a few years younger than he was. She was very proper, so every night they would watch TV together, and then she would go home, and then she might come back the next day. And his daughter said to him, "Dad, why don't you just move in together?" And I guess, I don't know what happened in the end, but that's not a bad idea. They would have felt better because they know there was someone with their dad. Anyway, something to keep in mind. And if you've ever been involved with helping someone over the age of 85 to downsize and move, it's likely going to be at a crisis situation, a health crisis. Something's happened. They need to move perhaps into long-term care, or they've gone to the hospital. They can't come home because there's no one there. I've talked to women in retirement homes or long-term care facilities, and they say, oh gosh, we wish we had done this a long time ago, because we suddenly had to move into this long-term care facility. We had no control over what happened to our things. The kids had to take care of it all. They didn't know what was important to their mother or father. They did the best they could, but a lot of times things just go into the dumpster, because unless someone wants something, they won't know what to do with it. So it's really, and if you have a partner, right, it says here, the reality is at some point, one of you will be left alone. So plan ahead. That's really what I'm talking about here. So bad stuff happens. At some point, one of these scenarios could happen. You could lose your spouse or partner, or your spouse or partner might need to move into institutional care. I mean, at some point that does become necessary for some people. You have an operation or a fall and can't be discharged home because you live alone or your home is not accessible. So consider taking some action, or at least planning your options while you're well and able to keep control of your situation and design your own future. I mean, I talk about it as when we launch our lives, often we do have roommates, in whether we're in university or when we're starting our careers, and then our career launches and perhaps you get married and raise a family. So you launch and then you have your life, and then this is where you're coming in for landing. And this is a way to come in for a graceful landing that you can live out many, many happy years together. So the alternatives: if you have a lot of money, you can stay in your own home and purchase care up to and including full 24/7 care if you need it. Private retirement homes we've talked about. And there again, the hardest day for staff at a retirement home, number one, is the day they have to tell someone, I'm sorry, you don't have enough resources to move in. And number two, if you've used the equity in your home to pay for your retirement home, and suddenly you're age 95 and you never expected to live that long, but there you are and you've run out of money. And then you have to go around and say goodbye to your friends at the retirement home because you have to move out. You don't have any more resources. And that's when you may move in with your children. Now, living with your children, it can be okay. Depends entirely on the family dynamics. I mean, sometimes it can work okay, but sometimes it's just not a good idea. In my case, my own mom did move into with my sister for the last 3.5 years of her life. And God bless them. Mom was very, very, very grateful, and my sister was very patient, but it was hard for both of them. And I'm just grateful that was there for my mom. And in a way, that's another reason why I was really glad to be able to help a friend to do that as well. But those are your options. And really, it takes a paradigm shift to think about, this way of living, because we just haven't thought about it. And some cultures, it's very common for intergenerational homes to happen. And that is also, if the home is big enough and then you plan to share a home with your kids, that certainly can be a solution. But the idea of sharing a home with someone that you don't yet know is a new idea and it's not immediately comfortable. But as someone who's shared homes for most of my adult life, from my experience, it's viable, enjoyable, affordable way to live. For more information on Golden Solutions workshops, which I've talked about, and the benefits of membership in Golden Girls Canada, and guys, because it's definitely for guys too, you can visit the website, goldengirlscanada.ca, email at hello@goldengirlscanada.ca, or call me, Dorothy Mazeau, at 416-550-4015.